Hi everyone, welcome to class. Today we're diving into some fun Algebra 2 problems. Factoring a polynomial completely when you already know one factor. Don't worry, we're going to break it down step by step so it actually makes sense. Let's start by reading the problem together. Let g be a polynomial function of x where g of x equals 3x cubed plus 14x squared plus 17x plus 6. If x plus 3 is a factor of g, write an equation for g as the product of linear factors. So we have a polynomial function right here, and we're told that x plus 3 is a factor of g of x. Our goal is basically to write g of x as a product of linear factors. That means we want to break it down completely. We're trying to find what got multiplied together with x plus 3 to make this polynomial function right here. Now, since x plus 3 is a factor, we're going to use long division to divide g of x into x plus 3. So let's set that up. So we're dividing 3x cubed plus 14x squared plus 17x plus 6 by x plus 3. There we go. So we need to figure out what do we need to multiply x by to get 3x cubed. So we're going to need a 3 because we have a 3 right here in the front. So we're going to go ahead and write 3. We also need x cubed. We already have 1x. So it's going to be x squared. So 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. But I'm going to go ahead and do some work over here to explain something really quick. To refresh your memory when it comes to subtracting polynomials. So quickly over here, when we are multiplying, so we're going to take 3x squared. So I'm going to write it over here. 3x squared. And we're multiplying that by x plus 3. So I'm going to go ahead and write x plus 3. So let's go ahead and multiply that out. So 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. 3x squared times 3, so basically we're multiplying 3 times 3. That gives me 9. So plus 9x squared. Now, when we're doing long division, we're actually going to subtract the polynomials, right? So this right here with these terms right here. So we're actually subtracting, so minus. Now, previously we learned how to subtract polynomials. So we take, if you guys remember, we take the negative and we distribute to each term inside the parentheses. So instead of this being positive, it becomes negative 3x cubed. But instead of this being positive 9x squared, it's going to be negative 9x squared, okay? So this is super important. We're going to flip the sign before we combine. So let's go back over here to our original problem over here. So when we take our 3x squared and we multiply it to x plus 3, as we saw, we got 3x cubed and then 9x squared. But again, super important. We flip both signs before we combine. So because both of them are positive, now we're going to make them negative. And we just explained that over here, right? Y becomes negative because when we take that negative sign and we distribute, that becomes negative x cubed. Negative times a positive 9 squared becomes negative 9 squared. And that's where we get the negative signs there. But instead of doing this every single time when we're doing our long division, we're just going to remember that we flip both signs before we combine. So let's go ahead and continue here. 3x cubed minus 3x cubed is 0, so that just cancels, right? We can get 0. So let's go ahead and continue here. We're going to do 14x squared minus 9x squared, and we get 5x squared. Now, we didn't use these terms over here, but we can't forget about them, so we're going to go ahead and drop those two terms. So plus 17x plus 6. Now, what do we need to multiply x by to get 5x squared? So we're going to need a 5, so we're going to put plus 5. And we already have 1x, but we need x squared. So I'm going to go ahead and add one more x there. So, well, we're going to be multiplying 5x times x, and that's going to give me 5x squared. X times x gives me that x squared. And then 5x times 3 is going to give me 15x, positive. But remember, we flip both signs before we combine. So because 5x squared is positive and 15x is positive, we're going to make them negative. So minus 5x squared minus 15x. All right, 5x squared minus 5x squared is 0. 17x minus 15 is 2, so we get 2x. And then we have 6 here, so we're going to go ahead and drop the 6 down. And we're almost done here, so one more. What do we need to multiply x by to get 2x? 2. Perfect. So here we go. 2 times x is positive 2x. 2 times 3 is positive 6. But we flip both signs before we combine. So instead of making them positive, we're going to make them negative. Negative 2x minus 6. This becomes 0, this becomes 0, and we get a remainder of 0. Perfect. So what this tells me is that if I multiply x plus 3 times 3x squared plus 5x plus 2, if we multiply these two together, it is going to give us our original polynomial, which is 3x cubed plus 14x squared plus 17x plus 6. But here's the thing, they want linear factors, which means we need to take this down even further and factor this down even more. So this one's okay, the x plus 3, we just got to factor this second piece down. So we're going to use the AC method. So I'm going to go ahead and make an x, and I'm just going to focus on this one right here. I'm factoring it down even more. So I'm going to make the top a times c and the bottom b. So in case you forgot, it's ax squared plus bx plus c. So that tells us that a is 3, c is 2. So a times c, so 3 times 2 is 6. So we're going to write 6 on top, and then b is 5. We're going to go ahead and write 5 on the bottom. Now, we need to figure out what two numbers can I multiply together that will give me 6, but when you add them together, give you 5. I recommend you have a multiplication table out at this point here so it can help you out, figure out seeing the two numbers that help you multiply to give you 6 and just kind of trying them all out. But it's going to be 2 and 3. And the reason why is because 2 times 3 gives me 6. 2 plus 3 gives me 5. So these two numbers are going to work out. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to take 3x squared plus 5x plus 2, and instead of writing 5x, we're going to replace it with 2x and 3x. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do 3x squared plus 3x plus 2x plus 2. And we're going to make two separate groups here. We're going to go ahead and look at these two terms together and then these two terms. So looking at the first two terms, you can tell that they both have a 3x in common. You can actually factor out a 3x. So let's go ahead and do that. So if I factor out a 3x, what is left inside the parentheses here? So I like to think about, what can I multiply 3x by to give me 3x squared? Well, x. So I'm going to go ahead and write x. What can I multiply 3x by to get 3x? Well, that's going to be 1, because 3x times 1 gives me 3x. I'm going to take this x plus 1, and I'm going to rewrite it right here. And then I want to focus on the second group, right? I want this to multiply to give me this up here. So what do I need to multiply x by to get 2x? It's going to be a 2. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 1 is 2. We're going to factor one more time here. If we notice, we have, let me change the color of the highlighter. We have an x plus 1 and an x plus 1. So we can actually factor out an x plus 1. And we are left with 3x plus 2. So we're left with 3x plus 2. There we go. Now we have completely factored this down. So that means that my final answer is going to be these two right here, plus we need to add in x plus 3. Because technically, if you multiply these two out, you are going to get this one right here, 3x squared plus 5x plus 2, and that's not what we want. We want the original one. So in order to get the original one here, the original polynomial, we need to get these two and multiply that by x plus 3. So let's go ahead and write that out. So x plus 3 times x plus 1 times 3x plus 2. There we go. We just factored this out completely using a product of linear factors. G of x equals 2x cubed plus 7x squared minus 17x minus 10. And we're told that x plus 5 is a factor. And we need to write g of x as a product of linear factors, just like before. So we're going to start with long division again. So we're dividing 2x cubed plus 7x squared minus 17x minus 10 by x plus 5. I'm going to zoom in here. So we need to think to ourselves, what do I multiply x by to get 2x cubed? Well, we're missing an x, so I'm going to go ahead and write x and a 2. Not only are we missing an x, we're missing a 2, right? Because we have a 2 here. But 2x times x is only going to give me 2x squared, and we need a cubed. So we have to do 2x squared. So 2x squared times x is going to give me 2x cubed. But we also need to multiply this 2x squared by 5. So 5 times 2 is 10, and then you have the x squared. But we need to remember that we need to flip the signs, then combine like terms. So we're going to do negative 2x cubed minus 10x squared. So this is going to give me 0. 2x cubed minus 2x cubed is 0. And 7 minus 10 is negative 3x squared. We didn't use these terms, so we're going to go ahead and drop them. Minus 17x minus 10. So now we're going to focus on negative 3x squared. So what am I going to multiply x by to get negative 3x squared? Well, negative 3x. So negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared. But we need to flip the sign. So instead of being negative, we're going to make it positive. We need to flip the sign. So then we're going to move on to our next one here. So negative 3x times 5 is negative 15x. But we need to change the sign. We got to flip the sign so it's going to be positive. And then we can combine like terms. So we're going to do negative 3x times x is negative 3x squared, but we're going to change it to a positive 3x squared. Negative 3x times 5 is negative 15x, but we're going to change it to a positive 15x. And combine like terms. This is going to give me 0. Negative 3x squared plus 3x squared is 0. Negative 17x plus 15x is negative 2x. We didn't use negative 10, so we're going to go ahead and drop it. We're almost done with this piece here. What do I need to multiply x by to get negative 2x? Well, that's going to be negative 2. And we don't need to add an x here because we already have an x here, right? And we only need 1. So negative 2 times x gives me negative 2x. But now it becomes a positive because remember, flip the sign, then combine like terms. Flip the sign, then combine like, and then negative 2 times 5 is negative 10. But we're going to flip the sign, so it's going to be positive 10. And when we combine like terms, we get 0. Because negative 2x plus 2x is 0. Negative 10 plus 10 is 0. So our final response here is x plus 5 times 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. Now they did, as I mentioned before, we do want to have a linear factors, which means we have to factor this section right here even more. So we're going to go ahead and use the AC method here. So we're going to go ahead and factor 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 by using the AC method. So we're going to multiply a times c. So a is 2, c is negative 2, so that gives me negative 4. B is negative 3. So I want to think about two numbers that I can multiply together. That would give me negative 4. But when I add the two, give me negative 3. So I'm thinking negative 4 and 1. Because negative 4 times 1 gives me negative 4. Negative 4 plus 1 gives me negative 3. So perfect. So I'm going to take 2x squared minus 3x minus 2, and I'm going to replace my middle term with 1x and negative 4x. So I'm going to write it as 2x squared minus 4x plus 1x minus 2. So I replace that middle term. So now I'm going to look at them separately into two groups here. So let me go ahead and separate this into two groups, the terms. So I'm going to look at the first piece there and think to myself, what can I factor out of 2x squared minus 4x? They both have an x in common and a 2 in common. So I'm going to go ahead and factor out a 2. And we are left with, 2x actually, because they both have an x. We are left with x minus 2. I'm going to take the x minus 2 and write it again. And then, what do I need to multiply x by to get 1x? Well, 1, right? We are going to factor one more time. If we notice here, we have an x minus 2 and an x minus 2. So we can go ahead and factor out an x minus 2. And we are left with 2x plus 1. There we go. So our final answer, because if you multiply this out here, these two, these two binomials here, you're going to end up with 2x squared minus 3x minus 2. And that's not what we want. We want our original one, which was 2x cubed plus 7x squared minus 17x minus 10. So all we have to do is take this and add x plus 5 to it too. Now we're multiplying that. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to do x plus 5, or g of x. G of x equals x plus 5 times x minus 2 times 2x plus 1. And boom! We are done. We did it without a graphic organizer this time, so that was cool to see. So once again, what did we just prove? That once you understand the pattern, that we're doing the long division and we're doing the AC method, you can factor any cubic polynomial like a pro, even without the graphic organizer. This made factoring feel a little less scary and a little more awesome. Hit that like button. Share this with your math besties. And remember, in math, we don't panic. We factor.